Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and enjoyed everything that comes with it. Tottenham didn't quite deliver on all of their festive gifts. Decent match against Crystal Palace, although helped by a sending off. Not so good at St Mary's yesterday with yet another sending off. I think that's 3 consecutive games, isn't it? Yeah, Premier League games with a sending off in it against Tottenham. I made the drive down to St Mary's. It was my first away game since Slovenia and Mura. Obviously, that's due to postponements. If you're not going to count my turning up at Turf Moor only to pretty much drive home again in the snow. So it was weird. It was a weird experience going to an away game again. Oh, I wanted to apologise. As you know, I like to apologise for stuff. I did say I was going to try and do a video towards the end of last week, just before Christmas. I really did intend to. However, towards the end of the week, I managed to pretty much lose my voice. Clearly doing too much YouTubing, podcasting, all of the above, and just talking general Tottenham Hotspur, and managed to kind of lose my voice, which was probably fun for those around me anyway. Got a bit of quiet time from me. But yes, it's back. It's back. It may occasionally crack up slightly, which in case I've got a drink on hand, as if on cue there, it's starting to do it. Don't worry, it's not the other thing. I have only had that about 10 weeks ago, and yes, although I know you can get it again, I have always test quite regularly when we have to go to matches and stuff like that anyway. But anyway, back to the football. I've seen a fair few people saying about the match yesterday that, Tottenham was robbed, that pretty much, VAR and the referee stuffed Tottenham. Do you know what? I'm very much siding with Antonio Conte in that if you're playing for 57 minutes, almost an hour against 10 men, you should be winning that match without any real problems. You shouldn't have to be relying on VAR to get 1-2 decisions right for you. You should really be just absolutely peppering that Southampton goal with efforts. And yes, they had I've written it down here, 21 shots at goal and 11 of them on target, which sounds like Spurs were constantly creating. But from my impression, sitting up there in the stand, I can think of very few that really tested Fraser Forster in the goal. He was very much comfortable kind of saves in his mid-drift or just having to dive ever so slightly to his side and gather. There was nothing really that hugely tested him. And I think Tottenham should have been better than that. They were pretty ropey, to be honest, in the first half before the sending off anyway. And then, as the game went on, I think someone said that Conte used an expression. I didn't see it, but apparently I think he said it on Spurs TV about something about reacting before you get slapped or something. Someone told me on Twitter. I know that's not the way to prove anything really happened or is true, Twitter, but I presume it was, because there's no reason to just make up a sentence like that. And it's true. That's what Tottenham do, though. They react afterwards, and sometimes when it's too late, rather than just going out there and doing what they've got to do from the start. And it looked like a team that had only played, final whistle to first whistle between the two matches was 46 hours. And, Conte only made 3 changes and Southampton made 6. And you could just tell in that second half, Southampton looked that little bit fresher and they looked able to they defended well. And I think the Southampton do deserve some credit. They defended well. I asked Conte after the game, what did you think? Did you think it was good defending from Southampton, or was it just your team struggling to really find a way through? And he said it was a bit of both, really. I've actually got that quote because I'm going to come to it later, what he said after that. But yeah, I don't know. I said on my Instagram that, it was a bit of a poor performance from Tottenham after a couple of kind of promising ones. And I had some people on it. It wasn't poor. They were robbed. Terrible referee. Stolen was the game. I get it. I get where you're coming from. But I think if you're looking at that objectively and you're looking at the performance as a whole, I'd say my player ratings are only maybe 3-4 players that probably came out with any credit from the game. I felt a lot of the players were really subpar on the day. And, as again, can only say, almost an hour against 10 men. That man extra advantage, you should be tearing teams apart. I know they can sit back, but you've always got that extra man and should be pulling them all over the place. Let's talk about the decisions, though, because obviously there certainly was some controversy there. Not so much in the very first one. The sending off as Mohamed Salisu. He was just a silly boy, quite frankly. Very much similar in terms of making just a daft decision like Wilfried Zaha did on Boxing Day. In this case, he'd already brought, I think it was Emerson down. And then, Son running through, and it was just so poorly timed, the challenge. There was no... This is the thing, we don't even have to talk about it. It was just so clear. As soon as Anthony Taylor went towards his back pocket to pull out the second yellow card, Salisu was walking off. No complaints, he knew it. And Hassan Hutel, to be fair, afterwards as well, said exactly the same. Said I'm more annoyed at his behaviour. It wasn't, as if to say, decision was spot on. Where we start to get a bit messy, obviously, is the Harry Kane goal that never was. Another Harry Winks very good ball. Harry Winks had played the ball through to Son to win the penalty, and he played another slightly different, more lofted curling ball into the path of Kane. Took a really nice touch to take it out of his feet, and it just buried the shot. And what was almost as disappointing at not being a goal was the fact that it was a confident Kane. It would have been his fourth goal in 3 Premier League matches, and you could see it in the finish. It was pinpoint. His penalty was superb, top left corner, forced it the wrong way. And this finish was lovely as well. And it was just, I was watching it in real time. I just thought, it's going to be tight, but I don't think it's offside. And you watch it back and you see it on the, we get to see the VAR replay, as it were. And there's two ways of looking at it. In the sense of the law, and I hate to even say this because it's such a ridiculous one, in the sense of the law right now, from what I understand, it was offside. But it's a ridiculous... in terms of the law, if you're going on the frame that was shown into the VAR people, the one they stopped it on, essentially, where it comes from is that you might remember the handball rule this season has changed so that it's essentially called the T-shirt rule. So roughly where your T-shirt would stop on you, I knew of all the days to actually be wearing a T-shirt is underneath. Where your T-shirt stops, that's roughly where, from there on down, can be considered... my hand's not even in shot, so there's no real use to you. From the T-shirt sleeve down to your hand, the end of the hand, is where a handball can come from, essentially. So, by logic, if you're using that, then in an offside decision... it sounds so ridiculous what I'm about to say, but if Harry Kane's armpit... and by extension, I guess the top of his shoulder there is ahead or behind, I guess, the last defender. Technically, that's offside. And yes, who scores goals with their armpits? Yes, I know it's utterly ridiculous, but by the very letter of the law, as it stands this season, I'm led to believe that that is offside. Now, the whole other debate you might want to have is... and this is one that I always find bizarre, that frame, the frame rate they have to exactly stop that frame, the likelihood of it stopping exactly as Harry Winks hit the pass through is so slim. It's so slim. And for me, that's where there needs to be this little margin of error. In terms of, what if you hadn't, it was slightly further back? Just a fraction of a whatever it is, nanosecondy type thing, that Winks played that ball, in which case Harry Kane's armpit would have been just onside. And it's just, for me, when it's down to that degree, that's when I just wonder, why are we bothering? That for me, again, and I would have said that it's either way, whether it's the opposition team, whether it's Tottenham, it's just when it all gets a bit stupid. But yeah, so that was that. VAR decided. Martin Atkinson, I think it was, in his VAR room decided. Didn't even ask, didn't even suggest that he went over and had a look. Although I don't know if they do that with VAR, to be fair. Look at the pitch side monitor. But yeah, there you go. So that was that. What I'd actually say is I actually felt the next decision, refereeing decision, was more clear-cut for me, because at least in that aspect, yes, you can fall back on the fact that the law states that the armpit can be scored with. So if the armpit is offside, I know it sounds ridiculous and I hate constantly repeating it, but technically the rule states that that is offside. So they have gone by the rules, if that's how you want to go. The next one, which was the Fraser Forster and Matt Doherty moment, I can't see why that's not been given as a goal. I just can't. I looked at it in real time and I thought, doesn't look like a foul to me. And I watched the replay where it gives us a little screen on a little kind of arm at St Mary's, which is very helpful. And you could see it again. And so what happened, if you completely missed it, was that the ball goes into the air. I have a feeling it was another Harry Winks cross. I think it might have been Harry Winks again. And the ball's come over. Matt Doherty's gone up for it. He's tried to challenge it. He hasn't gone in to go for the keeper. He's gone in to get the ball. He hasn't really made any contact with Forster. But what Forster's actually done, when you slow it down and look at it, is he's come out and he actually catches Matt Doherty with his knee. As his knee up, his knee bangs into Doherty, as I'm told I have to pronounce it. And Forster never really has the ball. He kind of has quite open arms like this, and the ball just essentially drops through his arms, hits the back of his heel, and rolls backwards into the goal. Matt Doherty does nothing wrong. Doesn't foul the goalkeeper, puts no real kind of physical touch on him that changes his, what do you call it? It is essentially his path of what he's doing. His trajectory, that was the word I was looking for. It's just poor goalkeeping. And then we have this weird thing, and Eric Dyer said afterwards, goalkeepers are probably overprotected now. And I think, I don't always agree with that, but in this situation, I feel, yes. It was very odd. There's the feint, I don't even think there was a real touch on him. Like I said, I think he went into Doherty. The ball's dropped through him. He never had it. It's not a case of he had it between his hands, caught in his hands and he was knocked. The ball just dropped through him, almost like, do you remember that game we used to like a whack-a-mole, whack-a-rat thing or whatever it was called, when he went to school fates and they put this kind of pretend little pillow rat down a chute and then you'd try and whack it at the end of it. Sounds quite barbaric when you think about it, but you know what I mean. Well, you might do if you're old enough. It's a bit like that. The ball just kind of dropped right through and just, really clumsily hit his heel and went back into the goal. And for some unknown reason, I don't understand why Martin Atkinson didn't suggest to Anthony Taylor, have a little look at it on your monitor, on your pitch side monitor. Have a look. See what you think about this. But we think maybe even if they think maybe it shouldn't have stood. Because I was trying to think, it was the other way. Decision on the pitch was Anthony Taylor. Yeah, it was the flip side, wasn't it? For the Kane goal, there was no flag, I don't think, and it wasn't called offside. It was going to be a goal, and VAR overruled it. But with the Forster dropping the ball, they instantly blew for a foul. And I was like, And I think VAR in that scenario should have said, look, you probably need to have another look at that. It just didn't happen. Whether VAR agreed, I don't know. Martin Atkinson agreed with the decision. But for me, that was actually the clearer of the two. But yeah, Conte was quite funny afterwards. I asked him about specifically the Kane goal. And he said, I've got his quote here somewhere. Yeah, I think Harry scored twice, one a penalty, and then the second goal. I think I don't want to comment on the referee decision or the VAR decision. They're there to try to do their best. We hope every time that they make the best decision. On the face of it, it's quite classy. It's very much saying I'm not going to comment on the referee's decisions. But he said Harry scored twice. So he clearly thinks they were wrong and it was a goal. And it was weird. It was weird. But I can only stress again, those two moments, Spurs should not have had to rely on them. In the very last added time, Davinson Sanchez had to come across and make an incredible sliding block challenge. I think it was on, who was it? Was it Brozier? I can't remember his name now. It came off the bench. He'd been playing well for Southampton in recent weeks. Came off the bench and Sanchez goes in there with his sliding challenge and it was brilliant. And it probably will be lost and not many people will remember it. It was a game-saving, a point-saving challenge. But how Tottenham were in that scenario against 10 men with an hour that they were there and Sanchez had to essentially save the day, or they were relying on VAR decisions, that for me was what marked it out as a poor performance. And, I felt there were a few players that were kind of subpar as it is. I thought Dele. Do you know what? I'm going to talk about the player that I felt they missed. And this is going to be of no real shock to anyone. I just felt they missed Oliver Skip. They didn't have a skip in their step, as it were. I know technically it's a spring in their step, the expression, but you know what I mean. I just feel like when he's not in that midfield, they lose a bit of drive, they lose a bit of tempo, they lose that ability to... What Skippy does is as soon as he wins the ball back, he straight away knocks it up the pitch to someone to crack on. It might be him that drives on, or he quickly gets it to someone to get up the pitch. And we all know Spurs counter-attacking is where they're at the best. They are superb at it. And he springs on those counter-attacks really quickly. And when he's not in the team, it doesn't happen as readily. And, and there's stats that have been doing the rounds, when he's played in the team this season, Tottenham have won 63% of their games in all competitions, winning 12 times, drawing 3 and losing 4. Without him, they've only won twice. That's 25% of the time, drawing twice and losing 4 games. I think that kind of says it all. And it says a lot about Skippy, but also maybe says a lot about the midfield options available to Conte, that a 21-year-old midfielder in his first full regular season, as in starting each week season, has become so integral so quickly. And it says a lot about the other options. But that's not to do down the midfield. I felt Harry Winks had another good game. I felt he played well. I've already said to you the 3, certainly putting in the ball for Son's penalty, putting in the pass for what should have been probably a Kane goal. And he was, I took down his stats as well because I wanted to look into how he'd done. So Harry Winks, stat alert ready, stato, 92.5% passing success rate, which was the highest on the pitch of anyone who, who played more than one pass on the day. And, and some people will hear that and go, sideways passing. No, it wasn't sideways passing. He provided 3 key passes, including those Son and Kane moments. He also put 6 crosses into Southampton box, 3 of them finding Spurs players, which is a better success rate than anyone else on the pitch who put in more than 1 cross. The reason I say those little things is because sometimes, say with the pass percentage one, there was a Southampton player who came off the bench and had 1 pass, so he gets 100, and it went to someone, so it gets 100% pass rate. So that's why I have to qualify it with the fact that more than 1 pass or more than 1 cross or whatever. But yeah, so he put half of his crosses reached the man, which is actually rare for crosses. It's one of those where you probably hear that and you go, oh, rubbish. But actually, for crosses, and you think about the mark and defenders heading it away, that's actually 50%. Is actually a pretty decent number. And like I say, higher than anyone else on the pitch. He made 1 key tackle and made 2 interceptions in the game as well. Winks did well. I saw a few people afterwards slating him again. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think he's actually under Conte. Do you know what? I'd go as far to say I think Conte probably wants to keep him now next month. I think he's enjoying his football again. Conte said the other day that it's Winks' desire and training is absolutely winning him over. He's trying so hard. And, I think he's doing well in that role. I'd actually say, if I was going to look at the other midfielders on the day, I'd say Winks was the best by a long shot as well. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, I don't want to go in too hard on him because, he's come back from his recent absence and, he's taken his time a little bit to kind of get back to kind of where he was certainly last season, I'd say. His passing accuracy was 90.4%, but with him that's slightly more misleading because there was no real forward momentum, too much of what he did. There was no key passes, no crosses into the box. And what he did have was a little bit frustrating. He had about 4 or 5 occasions, especially late on, where he found himself on the edge of the box and there was a chance to shoot. He hadn't been closed down or was about to be closed down. And all but one occasion, he knocked the ball out sideways to a winger or wing back who had less of a chance of, well, let's just say the box was then packed and they had less of a chance to kind of get the ball to anyone. And it was just moments where I just thought, why aren't you shooting? We've seen you score from the edge of the box a couple of times. He can do it. It wasn't a great one for him. He looks a bit low on energy sometimes, which is, understandable. He played the full 90. No, he didn't. He came off with about 10 to go, did he maybe? But anyway, he'd only played 46 hours beforehand and he was starting again, whereas Skippy was on the bench. And it just didn't really work for me with Højbjerg. Dele was disappointing. It was a strange one because obviously having played on the left of a midfield three against Liverpool, I felt he did pretty well, apart from those rusty moments in the final third. This time, it was a weird one. He was like, during the game, it looked like he was on the right of the front three, essentially taking Lucas's role. But Conte said afterwards that he'd actually had started the game on the right of the midfield three, in the middle. Whatever it was quite, I think I put a tweet out about halfway through the game where it was quite fluid. He was kind of flitting between the two. And I just felt it didn't work for him on the day as it did against Liverpool. He was maybe being asked to do more of a role that was more of what you'd expect from Lucas Moura, which is kind of taking the ball, turning and driving towards the box and getting past players. And that's not really Dele's thing. That's something Lucas has done. He was very, very good against Palace in doing it. And with Dele, Dele's better at working hard deeper and then just kind of doing those runs into the box that you don't see coming. And this was not that kind of role, and he struggled. And Conte was asked about him afterwards, and his answer was very kind of meh. It was almost, to paraphrase hugely, it was just pretty much like, well, what else could I do? That I kind of had to pick what I did because of the COVID issues we've had and all of this. And it was very much, I think he used an expression of he did the same as everyone else or something. Or he did the same as the others or something. It wasn't very positive anyway. It wasn't a great one. But he wasn't alone. I felt Sonny had a funny game. He had some moments where he was creating, but I'd still say at the moment it's something to do with his touch, his first touch and driving forward the ball and keeping it in control. It just maybe isn't as consistently good as it has been. He's losing the ball a few times and some of his passing hasn't been great. Obviously, he won the penalty, did very well for that. He had a couple of shots that were quite comfortable for Forster. But I don't know, it's a funny one. He's been obviously scoring as well in recent weeks, but I don't think we've seen top class Son yet. As we I was trying to think this season. I'm sure he has this season. It's just feels like the longest season ever because of the different things that have happened. But yeah, I just feel he's just not quite on the ball at the moment, Sonny. He's just gone off the ball slightly and a boil slightly. And that could be to do with his own absence. He was out for a little while as well with Højbjerg, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But Tanguy Ndombele, I'm going to talk about him. And I know people are saying, he didn't even play. But I kind of feel he should have. It's the first time so far I've probably felt myself maybe questioning a Conte decision. And, who am I? I absolutely understand that. Who am I to question one of the world's best managers? But I just felt yesterday there was an opportunity in that game for Tanguy to come on and make a difference. I asked Conte after the game about whether he felt it was very good defending or whether it was Tottenham struggling to get through that essentially ended in the 1-1 result against 10 men. And his answer to me, he said, to find space it wasn't easy, but at the same time I think that we can do much better and to move the ball more quickly. Sometimes to try also to find the 1v1. I think that to play after 2 days, not 2 days, but 44 hours, he said, which wasn't quite right, I guess. To final whistle, maybe it is. It's not easy for every team. I think that I've seen a bit of fatigue in my players. I think also that for this reason, we make sometimes not the good decisions in the last pass to finish. We can do much better. So essentially what Conte was saying was the team was missing someone passing the ball quickly, making good decisions with their final pass, and also someone fresh enough to take on players in a one-on-one situations. I don't know about you, but all the name I'm getting in my head is Tanguy Ndombele. But Tanguy, it was his 25th birthday as well yesterday. He spent it sat on the bench, Brian Hill came on. He had I'd say quite a bright little cameo. He played as a right wing back. It was a strange one because he was right wing back with Matt Doherty on the left wing back in the second half. Yet both of them were cutting inside because Hill was using his left, Doherty was using his right, so it became very inverted wing backs. And I felt early on it wasn't working, but what I would say in Conte's defence, late on, Doherty started to get better and better. I upgraded his player rating today. Yesterday I gave him a 5, and more I reflected on it on the drive back, and then I watched kind of some of the clips from the game. He actually did a little bit better than I thought he did. There was a couple of moments where he kind of made stuff happen, and when he cut inside, he did well to run onto a Son pass, and then had Forster kind of came out and smothered his shot. He did a nice little run to set up Hill late on. So for Hill and Doherty to both have chances and both create, I guess it kind of showed that did work. But yeah, for me, Tanguy, I feel it was his game. I feel it was, especially against 10 men, because then you can maybe forego the fact that maybe you're not going to get the best off the ball from him. And the reason I say that is it's kind of this feeling about Tanguy around the club, and I think it's probably one I share. He's probably the best player on the ball at Tottenham. Off the ball, he's probably one of the worst players at Tottenham. And it's a strange one because Tanguy is, the fitness coaches at Spurs believe he's in the best shape he's been in since he arrived at the club in the summer of 2019. He's at his top condition. Yet, he's just a maverick, isn't he? He really is. And this is the problem, is that Conte has such a set system, and as he admitted himself, everyone within that system has very specific tasks to do. And then you've got someone like Tanguy. He's such a genius of a player. He's the most gifted player at Tottenham Hotspur. I don't have to tell you how much I'm a fan of Tanguy Ndombele and what he can do. I really am. He's incredible. But when you watch him, what he does, and especially off the ball, does not scream, pick me, pick me, pick me. He doesn't. I watched again. I watched him do it against Palace, I think he did, and I watched him do it. Was it yesterday as well, I think. Tanguy doing a warm-up during a match, when the sub's going up and down the touchline, is honestly, as journalists, we enjoy it. It's like a sport in itself. So what happens, and this is pretty much on every occasion, Tonguy's asked to go and warm up. He slowly gets out of his seat. He might have a blanket on him and he's always got a million layers on. He takes them all off and eventually gets up. He shuffles down the touchline, walks along, mostly watching the game, see what's happening. Then he gets to the area where the subs are meant to kind of warm up. He continues to watch the game. He occasionally, does a little bit of kind of kicks his legs up, put his heels up behind him as he remembers he's got to do that. But mostly, he's kind of just standing there swaying, watching the game. I think from a medical point of view, for someone that's had lots of kind of little annoying injuries in the past, muscular injuries, you do wonder why he's not warming up properly. You watch the other players around him are all doing it, and you kind of think, it's funny. It makes us laugh. But I'd imagine if I was Antonio Conte and I'm looking up the touchline and I'm looking at the players warming up, and you look at, I don't know, someone like Dele, let's say, or anyone, Lucas Moura, if they're on that touchline, they are, going through a really vigorous routine. They're ready to come on that pitch. And you look at Tanguy and he's so laid back and he's just Tanguy. It's probably the only way to describe it. But if I'm Conte, and I'm so passionate, I'm mad and motivated and constantly moving like he is. He's just perpetual motion as Conte. And he looks up and he sees the guy and he's trying to make a decision about who to bring on next. And he sees Tanguy just strolling around, watching the match. It doesn't scream, I'm ready to come on and save your team. So I kind of get it. And and Conte's been quite strong with his on Dembele stuff. He came out very quickly, if you remember, and said, for Tanguy, he has to be aware that it's about the team and not himself. And I was actually a bit like, whoa, that's really early. You've kind of only had a couple of weeks with this player, and you've come out very quickly and said that about him. But even in his performances, I don't think Tonguy's done enough to kind of warrant starting matches. Even against Liverpool, he obviously had that pass to Kane for the goal, which was exactly, it's exactly what Tottenham needed. But off the ball, there's still those moments where he kind of watches the game go by. And Conte wants people who will sacrifice themselves for the team. They will put their body on the line. It's very similar to what Jose Mourinho used to call for. Can you say that Tanguy does that? Can you say that Tanguy will sprint back and throw his body into a sliding challenge to stop the ball? I've seen him do it. He is capable of it, and he has done it. Would I say he does it all the time or even often? Probably not. And this is coming from one of Tonguy's biggest fans. So yeah, it's a very strange scenario. And I think I just wonder whether Tonguy's demeanour actually cost him in coming on yesterday, and in turn cost Conte and Tottenham the chance to turn around that match. I could be wrong. It could be me reading too much into it. But like I say, it is a regular thing. We all watch it from that press, because our press box is always a very good viewing point for watching warm-ups, whether it's home or away. And also, like I say, it's on the pitch as well. I do. I think that expression is spot on. Tanguy Ndombele, best on the ball at the club, one of the worst off the ball at the club. And it's in that balance. Conte wants that balance. And I think that's where Tanguy kind of shoots himself in the foot slightly. And it's been noted. It has. I know there's people in the club that are very aware of this kind of lackadaisical. Lapsadaisical. I've actually managed to put lax and lapsadaisical into one word there. But that warm up he does, they're aware of it. It has been noted. It's not a new thing though. So I don't know. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen Tanguy yesterday. I think he would have changed the game. But we'll see what the weeks ahead bring. Whether he is one of those players that when we get Antonio Conte's, we won't get it, but when Antonio Conte makes his evaluation of his players, which side will he come out on? We'll see. Because, he is one of those players, if you can get him doing what you want, you have one of the most gifted players in football, let alone the Premier League. But, we're now on, what we had, Poch, Jose, Ryan Mason, you want to include him, Nuno, Conte. So it's his fifth head coach, and probably only for a short period in Mourinho's first full season did we see him really getting a massive, a consistent run out of Tanguy. And it's down to Tanguy as well, isn't it? When you hear something like that, you have to kind of also be introspective as well and look at what you're doing. So hopefully. But, I kind of touched on it there. We've got to look ahead to the transfer window as well, which is opening on Saturday, isn't it? New Year's Day. Everything very much revolves around Conte and this evaluation he's asked for. We've got a press conference with him tomorrow. I'm sure myself or someone else will ask him whether he's completed those evaluations yet. If you weren't aware, what happened was Conte had a little meeting. I think it was with Fabio Paratici, Steve Hitchin and Daniel Levy a few weeks back, and he said, with everything that's happened, with everything with the COVID stuff and everything, I need another month to evaluate my players and who deserves to continue wearing the Tottenham shirt, essentially. So he's been doing that in the past month. And what will happen now is that he will come back and the same people will have another meeting. And it's essentially like the recruitment team, isn't it, in all. And they will decide where to go from there. From what I understand, the current thinking at the club is that the targets for January would be a right wing back with potentially Matt Doherty going out to maybe get more regular football. a left-sided centre-back to be in competition with Ben Davies, and also a natural number 9, because obviously there isn't really one other than Harry Kane, shock horror, the striker situation. But I should stress, that's the current feeling, I think, at the moment, but they will be guided, the club, that's on very much, they will be guided by what Conte comes back with. So that's what the club feels needs to be done, but Conte's the boss. If Conte comes in and says, well, I could get away with not having another left-sided centre-back, let's say, because I could play Japhet Tanganga there, I'd prefer to have, I don't know, let's say, for example, a playmaker. I could do with another creative midfielder, or I want to get rid of this player. This player, I'm quite happy for you to accept bids for if they come in, whatever. That will change. And don't forget, if a player leaves, as is always the case in any transfer window, you would then have to make a decision of whether you want to replace that player with another similar player, So I can quite easily say those 3 positions, and then an attacking midfielder could leave and Tottenham have to replace that attacking midfielder. So, my views on the attacking playmaker type. I don't think they've ever replaced Christian Eriksen. But I don't know. Conte might decide that that's where Ndombele is going to play. He might decide that when Lo Celso gets back, if he can ever stay injury-free, that's where he might play. He may feel that Bryan Gil can take on that role. I don't know. This is what we're waiting for. And like I say, I think we'll ask about it tomorrow, but whether actually Conte says anything that gives us any real indication, I don't know. But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. It's going to be nice to know. But it's going to be an interesting transfer window. It is because, it's not one. Everyone I've been speaking to in the game at various clubs and people who are involved in transfers as well, and agents, things like that, they don't expect it to be a transfer window really awash with much money or big fees. We're very much seeing this after effect of the pandemic when, clubs lost a lot of money. Spurs alone, lost 150 million in revenue that just vanished because, no crowds, rebates on the TV money, no merchandising at games, little things, and no events, and every club suffered this. If anything, Tottenham dealt with it quite smartly. They did that the bond issue, didn't they? Which kind of restructured their long-term debt, whereas other clubs maybe didn't have that option. They didn't do that, and other than perhaps someone like a Newcastle with their kind of cash-rich status now, and obviously Man City, even though they said I think they lost a lot of money as well, there isn't a sense that this is going to be a window of big spending, And the other problem you get from that as well is when you want to move players on. So, I see, as I always do on Twitter, you get Tottenham fans saying, oh, player X, Y, Z has to go this window. Get them out, then we'll have the money to buy people. It's like, it's not that. It doesn't work like that. It's not FIFA. It's not Football Manager. Right now, let's, for example, say, and this is purely example, let's say Dele Alli did decide he wanted to get regular football and Conte said, do you know what? It's difficult to kind of fit him in my formation. Yeah, I'll let him go if he wants to go, and the club agreed to that. What do you do next with that? Is Dele Alli going to fetch the kind of price that is of any real benefit to Tottenham to then go out and sign players themselves? Because other than, let's say, Newcastle maybe coming in for him, you're probably not going to get a big fee for Dele Alli in this market. So the alternative to that is you go for a loan. Again, does a loan really massively benefit Tottenham? Because you're getting no real nominal amount of money in to be able to go towards bringing another player in. I don't think it does anyone any favours. And also, obviously, if Dele, there's a homegrown status. If Spurs are out of Europe, they're still, I don't think they've kind of really decided yet whether they're going to appeal that UEFA decision yet. I think we're going to find out on that in the next few days. But, if they're out of Europe, there's a little bit of an easing on the homegrown stuff because in the Premier League squad, it's not too bad. But the other thing as well, and this is on top of all the other stuff, is I keep hearing this thing from various clubs that there's a worry about letting players from squads go because at any time you could have COVID problems combined with injury problems. So all you need really is, I don't know, say 1 or 2 players to get COVID in a certain area of your squad, but then also have someone else that's got an injury or another one that gets an injury, and then suddenly you'll find you could be very short in one position and have real problems. And I think there will be a real reluctance in January to let players leave because of that. I think squads will be kept stocked up, which will annoy players. But I do think that's going to kind of have a knock-on effect on who's available. So yeah, I think it is going to be a difficult one. Like I say, Spurs want to make signings. They want to shape Conte's squad. Because obviously, don't forget the last transfer window in the summer was a squad shaped for Nuno. And now Conte will... And, Jose Mourinho's first winter window, he'd only been there a couple of months and they made a couple of signings. And I'm trying to think if anyone left. Ericsson left that window, didn't he? So, yeah, they want to do it, and it's just about bringing in the required quality. Sorry, I'm going to have a drink. This is very rare. I think it's only happened once before. But very wary that I'm going to lose my voice again, which is of no use to anyone apart from those in my house. Excuse me. So, let's talk about a couple of players. Oh man, my voice is going all funny now. It's making my eyes water. I know there's lots of names about there. Dusan Vlahovic is one of them. Fiorentina striker who Spurs really like and were, very interested in the summer. Anyone seeing this out of context is going to see me coughing and fear the worst, aren't they? But, so Dusan Vlahovic, the bigger problem with him now, although he's only got 18 months left in his contract, it's still the money. Dusan Vlahovic, that peskyly brilliant striker, only 21, he has not stopped scoring. He's only got better this season. Excuse me, I had his stats here. 18 goals in 22 matches. It's just got better and better and better. So that price tag, which would normally come down for someone with 18 months left of their contract, is not going down. It's not. It's, if anything, it's getting bigger. And so is the competition to sign him. So are the options that will be available to him. And there also, from what I understand, seems to be a little bit of a reluctance from him to leave midway through the season. I think he feels that he wants to leave Fiorentina kind of with a full season of what he can do, and he's already on 18 goals. God knows how many he's going to score this season. So I can kind of understand that logic. So then you're kind of looking towards the summer, and my gut feeling, and I hope it's wrong, is that Tottenham maybe missed their chance. I think the chance to sign Vlahovic was in last summer just gone. And had they done that and really pushed, it would have been incredible for Tottenham. I do think, alongside Harry Kane as well. But yeah, let's see what happens with that one. But I think that's going to be too difficult, maybe for anyone to sign him in January, unless someone comes in with an incredible offer. Who else? Matthias de Ligt I've seen as well. That's just madness. You're talking about the most expensive defender in the world. He's only, 22? His price is not going to drop like a stone. Juventus aren't going to throw away money. I think the links with him are mainly because, Fabio Paratici, he was the man who brought him to Juventus from Ajax. There's that connection. And no doubt Conte would like him. Most managers in the world would probably like him. He's one of the top young defenders in the world. But however, it maybe hasn't quite gone how he wanted at Juventus. I don't know. But you are not looking at the drop-in fee that would bring him into Tottenham's ballpark right now. And the only way would be Juventus to throw away money essentially, or agree to some kind of loan, which again, like I say, doesn't nobody any favours. De Vrij is another one as well. He's at Inter, isn't he? Maybe slightly more into Tottenham's ballpark. I think he's only got 18 months left of his contract. He turns 30 in about a month and a bit, something like that. Obviously, Conte would have known him from Inter Milan times. Again, a bit like Vlahovic, I can't see why he or Inter would want him to leave in January. I think you're still looking at a very decent fee for him in terms of what Inter would want to recoup. He's mainly been their guy on the left side of the back three, so he does fit what Tottenham are looking for. But I'd say on paper he's the one that makes probably the most sense financially. But I still think he'd be incredibly difficult for anything to happen with next month. Who else we got? I've been asked about loads today because I did a Q&A. I was asked about Adama Traore again. You know my thoughts on Adama Traore. Look, Paratici really likes him. Wanted to sign him at Juve before. I know people like him because he's fast and dangerous and strong. And I can only revert to what I said in the summer. And that's my own feeling that Adama Traore is just too often pretty dreadful in the final third in his end product. And since I said that, his grand total in the Premier League, in all matches, 19 matches in all competition, is 0 goals and 0 assists. I'm sorry. I know there's certain players and certain reasons you can look at numbers and stats, they can be misleading. But if you're an attacking midfielder and you're registering 0 goals and 0 assists, you're not that dangerous a player. I'm sorry. And it's not like it's an aberration. I think almost the aberration with Adama Traore was the year they came up and then he had one decent, maybe his second season in the Premier League. Was it second, possibly? Other than that, his stats have always kind of been like that. But yeah, I don't make decisions at Tottenham, but I still think his price wouldn't be cheap next month. Franck Kessie is another one. Spurs do like him. However, I'd say a January transfer is probably unlikely at this point. Aside from the fact that he's away for most of January with the Ivory Coast at the African Cup of Nations, which makes it very difficult in itself. But also, if everything we've just said about this this pandemic world, we're not post-pandemic yet, but in this current financial market, you'd have to be mad to probably sign a player for a fee when you can get him in 6 months' time for nothing. And if I'm Franck Kessie, I probably also am looking at it and thinking, in 6 months' time, I can get a massive signing-on fee from someone, or not massive, but a big signing-on fee from someone, and I can also ask for bigger wages because they're not paying any fee. It doesn't really make any sense for anyone to kind of make that move this January. And I think, again, when it comes to summer, there'll be a fair few teams going for him. But I think Spurs will look at him, definitely. But I feel like there'll be names this coming month that are not among the ones that we've just seen that will come out of the woodwork. Yes, logic suggests they will either be Serie A related or have some kind of Mendes connection, Jorge Mendes connection. I don't know why I went with the old Jorge. That's like Meet the Parents, isn't it? We'll see on that one. And obviously there's players in the club as well. Hugo Lloris. From Saturday, Tottenham have allowed the situation to fester that we'll see Hugo Lloris be able to talk to foreign clubs from Saturday about joining them for free in the summer. I know there's that thing that people use as a bit of a meme of me doing that when it comes to Tottenham. But this, for me, is very much deserving of that. I just feel that he's been it's kind of an underappreciated at the club, And from what I understood, and to be fair, I haven't really chased it up, but certainly at the start of this week, from what I understand, there hadn't been any real movement in discussions over a new contract for Lloris. Although I understand that there is a willingness from all sides to get a deal done, which is good. But if from Saturday any foreign club can talk to him and they make him an offer that is absolutely perfect for him right now and for his family at this stage of his career, situation might change. This is the problem when you allow yourself to go from talking to a player about a contract with no competition to suddenly having other clubs being able to get one of the top goalkeepers in the world for free. It really excuse me, it really, I don't know, I can't believe it. I don't know. He's 35, but I'd say he's making less mistakes than he ever was before. Still making his incredible flying reaction saves. Conte loves him. Conte thinks he's brilliant. I think Conte's a bit bewildered at how we've got to this situation as well. So hopefully there's like a breakthrough there, or Tottenham just realise what they've got, because if they don't keep Hugo Lloris, whether Galini is the answer, I don't know whether anyone's been entirely convinced yet. Which would then require Tottenham to spend decent money in the summer transfer window. Financially, people often say Daniel Levy, it's all about the money and stuff like that. Well, if you're going to look at it from a financial point of view, surely signing Hugo Lloris up to a new contract is not going to cost the kind of money that it would cost you to get a similar standard goalkeeper, with the fee plus wages plus everything, signing on fee, everything involved. Surely it's cheaper to keep the very good goalkeeper you have. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've got to this scenario. But this is where we are. This is where we are with Hugo Lloris, and I find it baffling. I really, really do. And yeah. Oh, let's remember, when I was talking about players leaving and the lack of money that can be brought in, Spurs were pretty much burnt on that in the summer as well. I was looking at that, and they let go, if you include a couple of loans, it was either 11 or 12 players, and they brought in 4 for their first team. And you look at the money they got for those players they let go. Juan Foyth was the one who brought in the most money. It was about 13.5 million. With that already agreed price with Villarreal. Then after that, you just go, you plummet to nominal little tiny fees for Alderweireld, Sissoko, Lamela, even Joe Hart. I think they might have got a tiny bit of money for. But you're talking nominal fees. So all of those players went out the door. Serge Aurier, they couldn't even sell him. They just had to do a mutual contract termination just to get him out the door. And I'm sorry, whatever you think of Serge Aurier, even with a year left on his contract at that point, he's worth more than 0. He is. Danny Rose went in at the end of his contract. Gazzaniga went in. Spurs got properly burned. And a couple of those players, funnily enough, were players that signed new contracts. Older players like Alderweireld and Sissoko. And I think maybe that's contributed to the Lloris situation of Spurs, or the powers that be worrying that they were going to do similar. They were going to sign a older player to a big new contract and then have to let them go for barely anything. But I think Hugo Lloris is a special case, and I've said that before. I think, if you're going to do that with anyone, it's Hugo Lloris. But there you go. I had some people asking about Harry Kane new contract. From everything I understand from speaking to people from within his camp and also speaking to people in the club, there hasn't been any kind of talks as of yet for that to happen. I get the impression from Kane's side that while he's really excited about Conte and while he thinks it's a big show of ambition for the club to have got him, there's a little feeling of, well, let's now see whether they back him or not. I think I get the impression that that's the feeling there, and obviously, if that is the case, then that's when they look at a new contract. And what I would say is, I think we're starting to see Kane starting to get back a little bit into his groove. Like I say, had they allowed that goal yesterday, it would have been 4-3. As it is, it's 3-3 Premier League games. And just the way he's shooting, you can feel he's got that confidence back. He's not getting great service. That's kind of dwindled a little bit. But hopefully Conte will fix it. I'm still very, very enthusiastic about what Conte is doing and what I can see he's doing. And yeah, it's down to the club now, really, and Paratici and Levy to kind of help him shape that squad now. Like I think I said before, I think all eyes were mainly on next season, and this season was going to be a bit of a foundation builder. And Conte is very much playing down everything. He knows that when you look at it on paper, in the Premier League, Tottenham really have only played Liverpool in terms of like a top 6 side under him. And there's much tougher matches to come than what they've been facing. and especially when you go yesterday and can't score, of an hour within an hour of playing 10 men. There's more to do, but I think there's also got to be a little understanding that Conte's shown with certain players that he can improve them enough that if you give him a bit of backing, that top 4 spot isn't out of range. It's not, purely because everyone seems to be trying to throw it away. And the one team that can find a bit of consistency will be the one that grabs it. And if Spurs can find that under Conte and they back him with a couple of signings in the window, who knows? They could be a bit ahead of schedule, and that gives them a lot more money going into the summer. I think Conte will be a draw for players. I think players will want to join purely because of Conte and his record. But obviously, if they could get into the Champions League as well, and the financial burden that would ease on the club, it's a no-brainer, really. So there you go. Right, I'm going to go before my voice completely gives up on me. I was wondering how long it would last. It got me almost all the way through it before I started coughing and spluttering. Like I say, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, and I probably won't do another one of these before New Year because that's Saturday, and I like to do these after, so we've got a little game to talk about as well. So I may do one either on Sunday or early next week. So have a wonderful New Year. I hope it's very happy, and I hope 2022 brings you lots of good health and happiness. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.